Alright, a little bit of a closer view. What's going on, everybody? A couple things I want to go through today. I might not be able to put out 2, 3, 4, 5, anything today, maybe. I don't know. If you're seeing this today, that's awesome. But today I'm celebrating my birthday. Fucking yay me, 34. I turned now 7. Funny enough, 7 is the number of Saturn. And on May 11th, which is my actual birthday, which is Monday, which kind of sucks because I'm on nights this week. So I go in on my birthday. I work on my birthday kind of like twice, really. I go in Sunday night at 11, so then my birthday officially starts from 12 to 7, right? That's my shift. And then I go back in after I sleep that day, back in at 11, that same fucking day for my shift, my Tuesday shift. But it is what it is, and, you know, the whole me being anxious about that and feeling like I shouldn't work on my birthday and all that shit is just a bunch of thoughts and, you know, me, the whole thing, what I was saying a couple of videos ago, how those, you know, you can worry about what's going to happen, but what's going to happen hasn't happened yet and all that. Well, that's basically what's going on in my head right now, just kind of affecting me. So I know better than to let this affect me, yet easier said than done. This is why I come on here and I teach shit, because it also helps me understand it as well, as I'm trying to help other people. And I've said this before, don't ever think just because I say a bunch of shit and, you know, maybe it seems like I'm balanced or know or do all these things, because it's not always the case. A lot of times information comes through me and it's great information and I haven't even put it into practice yet. I'm never going to pretend to be above anybody else or be better than anybody else, because I'm not. If I am better at some things than other people, there's definitely other areas where those people have better understandings or a better, you know, anything than where I am. We all have something to offer to each other. We all have something to learn from each other. So I guess without further ado, what I want to do is in my I put on a Spreaker podcast episode, Ceremonial Witchcraft, yesterday, and I started it off with a very small, maybe 26 minutes of the David Icke and London Real interview, which has been banned, which you can't see or watch the actual interview. You could find the audio. I've recorded the audio, obviously, because I don't need to see the faces and all that shit. I don't need the symbolism. I'd rather listen to audio, because when you get your eyes and your ears involved, you're more likely to get an emotional response. It's two parts of your medial cortex get involved. If you're only listening, only your ears, then you're less likely to get everything involved. So keep that in mind. If you're worried about watching something and getting a response, but yet you really want to know what's going on, maybe just listen to it. Or maybe just watch it without the audio. It won't be so bad. Anyways, I know that'd be kind of fucked to do, but you can still get an emotional response from your ears. It happens to me all the time. But when that happens, if it's something you want, you accept it. If it's something you don't want, you banish, reject, deny it. This is the first part of everything. Everything begins there. The thoughts you have aren't yours, and they're not concrete. When you start having a thought about the New World Order taking over this world, you say, no, I reject that thought. And I accept the thought that we are going to become a balanced, evolved society who cherishes, loves, and helps one another going forward until my grandkids are here and make it even better. I will be harm-free, so motive B. That's what you do. You do that every single fucking time you have that thought. You don't ever allow that thought to come into your mind, and you fucking say, I accept that. And here's the thing. Even Ralph Smart said this. By not saying anything, you accept it. You're accepting it. So, but that works as well in your head. If you are not saying either I banish this or I accept this, then you are accepting it. Now, there's a few more things that come into play here, like your emotions. So if you get a fear response and you start thinking about and visualizing what that would be like, well, then you're basically accepting it. And if you get a love response that tells you, no, I'm not accepting this, well, then that's different, because there's ways to accept and banish without even saying those words, by using your emotions and all that. But it's hard, and I have trouble even doing that, so I'm not even going to try to talk about something that I'm not good at yet. So, because I'm not a fake, I'm not a fraud, I don't talk about anything that I can't do, except, like I just said in the beginning, sometimes I talk about things that I haven't mastered yet, and it's just because it comes out of me at the same time, and it's like, well, I guess this is where I need to work on my shit, and then I do, and then it's real. You know what I mean? So I'll say something on here that isn't technically real in my life yet, and then after saying it, it's like, well, fuck, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I haven't worked on that yet, so then I work on it, and then it becomes so. And it's probably easier because, you know, all the minds watching me think I'm already at that level. Therefore, their thoughts help my manifestation happen, and then I'm actively putting in the action to make it happen. So therefore, thought plus action plus emotion equals manifestation. Whew. Anyways, and once again, I can't say it enough. I wasn't trying to tear down Teal Swan or Ralph. I hope I never came off at all about tearing apart Ralph. You know, there's a lot of things I could say about Ralph, like his use of analog marking in his titles and his use of NLP. He's very good at using NLP, definitely, and, you know, but the message he's saying is a nice message, so it's not something I would ever bring up and say he's trying to fucking mind fuck you, because he's not. He's just trying to get people to hear him, listen to him, and he's trying to manifest that desired outcome, which is beneficial to humanity. Now you can say, well, who is he to try to think he knows what humanity needs? And, you know, point taken. He doesn't. Everybody can have their opinion of how humanity should be. Even these elite dark groups that you might think exist have a right to believe what humanity should be, and they're the ones actually trying to put us towards there, as most people think. But understand, the more people think that there's an elite dark group using Kabbalah, clip-off, you know, satanic, Luciferian fucking magic, the more people that actually believe that to be a real reality, you're going to infallibly make that a real reality. So if there really wasn't anybody there before, or maybe one or two people trying to do it, they're having a hard time, well, the more energy and focus you put into this dark energy controlling the earth and us getting fucked over, you're just going to bring that closer and closer and closer. It's not going to help. Now, last few videos have been kind of dark and gloomy a little bit, and they're not really giving it too much fucking hope to anybody about anything or what to do or anything like that. So David Icke is a guy that I've always had a respect for because he's got balls. You know, he could get out there and he could say whatever the fuck he wants, and he doesn't give a fuck who fucking says or thinks anything about him. And I love that. I love that. Absolutely, positively love that. But I never always believed and thought his things were real. And like I said before, I would fucking fight for his fucking freedom of speech. Just like I'd fight for someone who doesn't like me, his freedom for speech. I think we need to have freedom of speech. Unless it's used to cut down other races and all that. And that's where the lines get blurred. It's like, okay, freedom of speech versus, you know, freedom to be racist and freedom to be sexist and freedom to fucking be rude and hateful to people. Well, that's where you gotta draw the line. You're allowed to fucking say your opinion, but you're not allowed to tear down other people. And it's like, well, everybody has a different opinion. It's like, yeah, so? Well, everybody has a different spirituality. Everybody's a different race. Everybody has a different view of everything. And so, we should be able to share that freely. Why is there a difference between spirituality and religion? Why do we care about people's other religions and spirituality so much? Yet, you can be friends with somebody. My wife, for example, loves country music, and I'm not a big fan. There's a few songs I listen to and I put on because I generally take over the radio when we drive, and sometimes I feel bad, so I put on the country songs I like, which is still very selfish of me, by the way. But, you know, whatever. It's something I gotta work on. But, you know, I don't like country. And she doesn't necessarily like the stuff that I like. You know, she'll listen to some rap, but she doesn't like all the rap I listen to. She'll listen to some of my Avenged Sevenfold songs, but she doesn't really like all those. You know what I mean? Tom McDonald too. She likes some of his songs, but the rest of them she fucking can't stand. And yet we're married and we get along for the most part pretty fucking good. And why is that? But yet, if two people wanted to get married, if they weren't both Catholic, well, one would have to become Catholic, get baptized. Every one of the fucking, you know, you'd have to be baptized, you'd have your first communion, confirmation, confession, and all those fucking religious, they're not vows, but what the fuck are they? Sacraments. You'd have all the sacraments before you get married. Same thing, you know, you see a lot in movies, especially like Adam Sandler movies, you know, whenever he's talking about a girl that he likes or whatever, you always hear a mom or a friend's mom like, oh, is she Jewish? You know, because if they're not Jewish, they can't get married kind of thing. Why is that? Yet, we can both like different kinds of music and get married, but yet, we can't have the same spirituality and get along. Is that maybe some fucking programming? Is that maybe a way to divide us? is that maybe a way to say, if you guys don't believe in the same belief system, that you can't coexist and get along, thus you have to fight against each other? Palestine and Israel have been fighting over the same fucking religion for how long? Just fighting over different details. And obviously you could say, well, it's really not about that. That's probably just a lie. Okay, and, probably point taken. It's probably really about something else, and that's just the fucking reason they give, and maybe it's not real fighting and all that. But you can get where I'm going with this shit, okay? Like, you can get where I'm trying to go with this. Why can we enjoy different music, but we can't enjoy each other's different religions and beliefs? Why is that? I understand that a crackhead and a church girl can't get together, because that's pretty different. I think it was Chris Rock in one of his stand-ups. Hey, baby, I'm going to church. You want to come? No, I'm going to go hit the pipe. You know what I mean? That's pretty opposite, but sometimes that shit attracts. I'm telling you. But, you know what I mean? Why do we have to have different views? Why does our religion, our spirituality, beliefs, why can't someone who believes in deities and thought forms, and why can't someone, if someone believes in God and Jesus, why can't those two get together? I'm telling you right now. Well, I think more or less that's my relationship. I don't necessarily believe in God, although I was, and I am Catholic as far as the paper goes, just so I could have married, well, not just so I could marry my wife. I was Catholic at that time, but my faith's been shaken for years, so this was kind of inevitable. But I think technically she is a believer in God at the moment, and I don't believe in that God, yet we can coexist, yet I can still be with my children who believe in that, and some of them do, some of them don't. Music brings on emotional responses. Music programs you. Music does all the same things that religion does, by the by. And I would say music is even more powerful than religion half the time. I was in a pretty shitty mood all this morning. It wasn't until I turned on music that I cheered myself up. If I put on fucking some church or some fucking spirituality shit, it might not have done the trick. But music got to me. It made me happy. It made me be able to wake up, be cheerful, and understand that, okay, today's my only day off, and, whatever, pity party that I was having. And I was able to get past it because of music. And music is so powerful that we can enjoy each other's company, even though we don't enjoy each other's choice of music. But why can't we do that with spirituality and religion? And everybody who believes in that their spirituality is important, people should adopt it. Why can't we at least respect each other's other choice in spirituality and religion, and just leave each other alone and focus on the same fucking goal instead of focusing on our separation and getting mad at each other and thinking that we fucking suck or we're the problem, when we're just played opposite each other just for the purposes of creating problems? I don't know, but those are some questions that people need to reflect on, and just fuck off the bullshit and stop fucking judging one another for this crap. It's just stupid. We, not elites, not Illuminati, we are making the world a shittier place because we are doing this. Not these evil dark groups that are trying to take control of the world. They're trying to unite people under them, which is probably not going to be good, but still, they don't care what you listen to or what you believe in. They just want you all to fucking do what they say, which is terrible. I'm not saying it's good, but we're the ones that say, oh, we all should be free, but you should like what I like, and I should not like what you like or have to. It's disgusting. We fucking suck some days, you know that? For as beautiful and smart and as creative and as complex and as amazing things that we can do, we're so fucking stupid. We are so fucking uninvolved. It makes me sick some days. That's just the other side of the coin, because I love humanity and I believe in us and I want us to evolve and I want to help, and it's like, I'm still fucked up in so many ways. It's like, who the fuck am I to fucking come out here and say a goddamn thing? It doesn't even make sense sometimes, but, I believe in trying to help and working on myself at the same time, so I guess that's why I do it. Alright, so, all that being said, David Icke is somebody who, I never always believed in what he believed in. And, even more than that, I never thought reptilians, or really thought anything about that. If there was reptilians, that would be on the Pleiadian side, and all this crap. And I always thought of him as somebody who sells books and, YouTube advertisements, and gets hits from selling fear to people, is what I thought and potentially, you know, he wasn't real. He was kind of up there with Alex Jones in my book, and they did a few interviews together, so, you know, but, you know, they're just fake fucking fear fucking creating motherfuckers, but technically help people evolve and help people, you know, help people go through their first chakra opening, you know, and I still think that is possible, but maybe they are actually working for the other side, and once again, that could be true, I don't know, but maybe it's because I haven't listened to David Icke all that much, but anyways, he's got a new book coming out, and I'm probably going to buy the fucking thing, just so you know, to see what it's about. And this London Real thing at first, when I heard him saying this, because, well, you'll hear it. Anyways, he's giving a solution as to what to do about this, and I want you guys to hear it, and I know I'll play it at the beginning of my podcast, which, by the way, when I make a podcast and I put all my recent videos of YouTube on there, and all that content, and it's just like redoing it, people might be like, what the fuck is he doing this for? Because if you listen to my podcast and you watch YouTube, you're probably thinking it's fucked. But I know, and I've spoken to some people that listen to my podcast that don't watch my YouTube because they gave up YouTube. Because YouTube brings their mind in too many directions and they don't follow through on things sometimes. Because there's just so much information there and they can get lost in it. So, I put my YouTube video information on there so the certain people that only listen to my podcast hear it. So, yeah, that's why I do that, and it's not to fucking whatever, because I want I don't know, maybe it's because I'm one of those people, but I want all information on YouTube that I have on Spreaker and vice versa. Now, all the things from Spreaker are on YouTube, but anything I make solely on YouTube does not go on Spreaker. So, yeah, that's, anyways, but I'm going to have to delete some videos off of this bitch, because it says I only have 3 minutes to record, and this thing is pretty long. I mean, at least 7 or 8 minutes, but he's giving you a solution on how to do this, and it comes down to perception, how your mind works, how the media fucks with your mind, and, you know, he even gives a real life thing that happened to him, that he had arthritis and he bet it by doing this. And I had a video, beginning of the year, before coronavirus was a big deal, after during the forest fires of Australia, when all the animals were getting killed, and after, Trump bombed the Iranian fucking military dude, and then they fought back and did something bad, you know. This is all right before the coronavirus dropped, by the way. But anyways, I had a video about personality identities and how you can take on different personalities that you create, and it's almost like a thought form or an egregore that you embody, because when you go to work, you can have the identity of, I'm a great worker, I always get things done, no one makes fun of me, everybody likes me at work. And then when you're done work, you can put on the identity that I'm a great father, you know, I'm happy, whatever. You can switch throughout these identities to make your life easier and more adaptable and all that. Well, he kind of talks about identities in a different way, but a similar way at the same time. So I want to play that for everybody to hear, because it's a solution. And, you know, if I end up thinking this is stupid, I shouldn't play this, well then I'll figure out another way to get this on. But yeah, enjoy. It's gonna take me a second here, but it should be already queued up. Oh, that's Rufio.
They're not trying to protect old people. They couldn't give a damn. They don't want old people. That's what he called them. And that's how they perceive them. And now we're supposed to believe that this is all to protect them. Oh, please, do me a favour. We need to wake up to the fact that something beyond frickin' evil is running this world. I've been trying to get this out for all these years, and I do understand why. Because people do not have, in their lives in general, experience of undiluted evil that has no empathy and no compassion and no emotional consequence for anything it does. When you don't have that in your life, and most people don't, it's very difficult to grasp the scale of evil that's running this world. And the idea...
Now, that being said, what he just said, I know people that have things that could be perceived as that level of evil. And, you know, if you want to make yourself sad, you can think about all the fucking millions of kids right now that have parents that are drug users and just terrible parents that shouldn't have children. And these children are stuck inside at home with these fucking parents all fucking day long. And they're suffering. and they're not getting dirt under their fingernails and getting dirty and making their system strong enough to fight against fucking germs. So if this ever gets released again, everybody's going to be weaker rather than stronger. All summer long, you're outside taking in a lot of germs. In the wintertime, especially here in Canada, wintertime we're stuck inside. You know what I mean? Stuck inside our house. And when do people in Canada or anybody in general get mostly sick? Well, it's in the fucking wintertime. Because you're stuck inside all the time. So you're not making as much germs, you're not getting as sick. Well, what are they making us do? They're fucking making us stay inside. But anyways, there's a lot of evil in this world. And I don't think that statement is completely correct because there's a lot of people that understand it. And that's why a lot of people take up drugs, alcohol, and all that because they can't handle the amount of evil that's going on. Fucking shit.
That they are trying to protect us by taking our freedom away is such a joke, it's unbelievable. If people don't like that, well, they can do the other thing.
I had a flashback when I was coming into work this morning, and I just thought, what was it like in Germany in, say, 39, where all of a sudden all these rights
For fuck's sakes.
are being taken away. I had a flashback when I was coming into work this morning, and I just thought, what was it like in Germany in, say, 39, where all of a sudden all these rights are being taken away. And I was like, it must have been weird in this state. I always used to wonder, why didn't everybody leave? But you've got your family there and your businesses and your properties there, so you put up with a little more, and you put up with a little more, and then they vilify this group over here, and I don't know, and I don't think about this stuff that often. I'm not a history buff, but it just snapped in my mind, and I was just like, what's going on here? David, a lot of people will listen to us today and go away really depressed and really down and not see any type of future. I know you don't like leaving people that way. So what is something people can go away with a positive note? What's something they can focus on? Are we going to get through this?
Well, I've just finished a book, which is going to come out in the next few months.
I'm going to get that shit.
Which is all about
if I get it
what
for free, I'll share that shit.
And you know, there's many elements to it. Although there's an absolute.
You can get a lot of David Icke's books for free online.
And
David Icke PDF.
One of the things.
You get a fuckload of them, by the way.
One of the key things
Google
we need
it.
to do, I would say, is to change our self-identity. If you identify as your name, your life story, your race, your religion, one of the key things we need to do.
Oh, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be able to shut off the car and the radio's still playing. Obviously, it didn't. The fucking stupid fucking thing.
Would say is to change. If you identify as your name, your life story, your race, your religion, one of the key things we need to do, I
You
would
hear
say,
popcorn popping in the background and shit.
is to change our self-identity.
It's because when I recorded this, my kids are making popcorn.
If you identify as your name, your life story, your race, your religion, your background, whatever, you are identifying with a set of labels that are transitory and are incredibly brief. And those set of labels are not you. They are what you are experiencing. I am not David Icke.
How many people have said that?
I am a point of attention, which can be
just
Here, a lot of people out there with a lot of questions. There's a lot of confusion. This is a crazy time. I wanted to start off and just say a few things as far as where we are.
Okay.
It's March 18th, 2020 right now. I want to throw some of my views out there, and then I want to hear your views,
Okay.
and I want to have a good discussion about this.
Right.
And also talk about the numbers we know so far. So first of all, just as far as my beliefs, I personally don't believe the coronavirus was created by a third party. I do think it occurred naturally. I do believe in the science, and I do believe in vaccines. I'm sure we're going to talk about this. I do plan on getting my flu vaccine and any future coronaviruses vaccines, although you might talk me out of it. We'll see. I am now obeying the orders of the government. I'm complying with their request for information and behavior. We're going to see what happens with that. That being said, I do believe at this point that the virus can no longer be controlled in the Western world. And as a healthy 40-something-year-old male, I'm prepared to get it right now, and I don't believe it's going to kill me. We just shook hands. Over the long term, I do think 70 to 80% of the population is going to get it and hopefully become immune to it. But also I understand due to the safety of the elderly, I know we're going to talk about that, and those with lower immune systems and respiratory problems, I understand and I agree with this policy of social distancing in order to flatten the curve and not to overwhelm our medical system. Finally, I just want to say I think we now live in a post-coronavirus world where the virus is going to be along for a long period of time and it's going to change our behavior. Let me hit you with some stats, and then we can jump into this. As of today, March 18th, there are 208,221 reported cases worldwide and 8,272 confirmed deaths. Countries like China with 81,000 cases, about 3,200 deaths. Italy, 31,000 cases, 2,500 deaths. Iran, 16,000 cases, 988 deaths. As we go down to Spain, 13,000 cases, 533 deaths. And then down into the USA with 6,500 cases and 116 reported deaths. And here in the UK, 1,950 cases and 71 deaths. Stock markets in America are down well over 25% since their highs, and a global recession is all but certain. Federal Reserve has cut rates to nearly zero. The U.S. has approved a $1 trillion stimulus package. The UK, a £330 billion stimulus package. Many industries at risk. Aerospace, travel companies, entertainment, events, retail outlets, the list goes on and on and on. I hear through my sources we should expect military troops here in London in the next couple days on the streets. David, there's an ancient Chinese expression that says, may you live in interesting times. Some say it's a curse. What do you see in the world? What are you concerned about? And do you feel for the British citizens and global citizens?
Right. Well, maybe if I just put some background in place, and then we can take it from there. For 30 years, I've been warning people in my books and in every other way I can that this world is controlled by a cult. It's a cult that has no borders. It operates in all the, at least major countries, and in fact, all the countries in the end, and particular in those countries that dictate the direction of the world. So the cult will be at the core of the system in China. It will be at the core of the system in America, etc., etc., etc. And so what have I said in this 30 years that this cult wants? I've said, and I've said it in the chats we've had before, it wants to create a beyond Orwellian global state in which a tiny few people dictate to everyone else. I've referred to this as the Hunger Games society. And you can picture the structure very clearly. Picture a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, you've got a tiny few enormously wealthy people that actually are connected to this cult. We now have a name for them. We call them the 1%. At the bottom of this pyramid in the Hunger Games society is basically the rest of humanity that is dependent upon the 1%. And in between the two is a vicious, merciless police military state to impose the will of the 1% on the population and to prevent the population challenging the 1%. And this Hunger Games society is not classic fascism, it's not classic communism, although the outcome in terms of tyranny is the same. It is a technocracy. A technocracy is defined as a society that is controlled by bureaucrats, experts, scientists, engineers, technocrats. And the ability of that situation to happen is through smart technology and AI. The idea is that everything will be connected to AI. This is what the Internet of Things is all about. And if you listen to the crazies in Silicon Valley, they're telling you that in the period around 2030, a year that keeps coming up from all directions, we will have a situation where the human brain will start to be connected to AI. And thus, whoever controls AI will be connecting and driving the perceptions of humanity. And that can be done from a central point through this smart grid, global smart grid. So that's the structure that they want. They also want a society completely cashless, where everything is digital money, a single one world currency, which will be run through this smart grid. Now, in the same 30 years, I've been saying there are two major techniques that are being used to bring about that situation. One, I've called since the 1990s problem, reaction, solution, where you covertly create a problem, you use the unquestioning, pathetic mainstream media to tell the public the version of the problem you want them to believe. And you're looking at stage two, the reaction, for fear, that's the currency of control, outrage, whatever the problem is, and either a demand from the public that something must be done, or at least an acceptance from the public that things need to change because of the problem. And at that point, those who've created the problem got that reaction openly in changes in society, offer the solutions to the problems they have themselves covertly created. And those changes, step by step, take us further and further to that Hunger Games society. There's another version, which I call no problem reaction solution, where you don't need a real problem. You just need the perception of one, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and you still have the ability to provide your society-changing solution. The stablemate of problem reaction solution is what I call the totalitarian tiptoe, where you start at A and you know you're going to Z, but you know if you go in too big a leap, people will look up from the game show and the latest Simon Cowell and say, what's going on? What's going on? Because the change is so great. So you do it in as big a steps as you can towards your outcome, but not so fast or big that you alert too many people to the fact that it's a pattern. What you want people to believe is everything is random. And I have this other phrase which relates to all this: know the outcome and you'll see the journey. If you don't know where this world is being taken by this cult, then everything seems random. Coronavirus, random. Climate change, random. Economic crash, random. But when you know where we're being taken, you know the outcome, this Hunger Games structure society, now the apparently random events become clear stepping stones to that outcome. Now, let's take all of that and apply it to the coronavirus and what's happening now, and let people decide for themselves if they think that the fact that the coronavirus hysteria ticks every single box of that outcome, that goal, whether that's a coincidence. I absolutely do not believe that it is. And, you mentioned that you don't think that it was a created virus. But the fact is, whether it was or whether it wasn't, doesn't matter to the fact that once you roll this out, it takes on a momentum of its own.
I agree with that.
And therefore, what is unfolding was desperately predictable. And in fact, we'll get into this as we chat, two massive 1% organizations, one in fact 6 weeks before this virus came to light in China, were playing out scenarios and simulations based on exactly this scenario that's unfolding now. And what they said would happen is exactly what is happening, down to the fine detail.
Okay, but the coronavirus is real and it is dangerous. You do believe that?
Well, not as a black and white, no.
Okay, but it is real?
Obviously, there is a strain of this coronavirus, because there are many coronaviruses, which appears to be different. But if you look in terms of the danger is to a certain section of society. Do you know, mainstream doctors, I watched an interview with one in America only 2 or 3 days ago, and they're saying, well, just to put into context, 80% of people that are diagnosed with coronavirus have, and this is his quote, very mild symptoms. The ones that are in danger, and by the way, in danger from any virus, including the classic flu, are those that have compromised immune systems. And they are old people, elderly people, and they are people with what is termed pre-existing health problems. Why? The pre-existing health problems are putting so much pressure on the immune system, it's already weak when it's hit with this. This is why someone like that will have potentially a serious situation, and someone with an immune system in working order of any level will just swat it away. And another point, you know, have we not learned yet to take what the authorities tell us with a pinch of salt until it's proved otherwise? Do you know, there was a lady called Dr. Deborah Blix. She's the White House coronavirus coordinator. She said in a press conference 2 days ago that 96% plus of those who have been tested for coronavirus in South Korea were negative. And she said, and our testing results in America show about the same. And so when you are in a massive way, you are diagnosing on the basis of symptoms. How the hell do you know they've got this coronavirus strain and not something else? Me and my son, Gareth, well before Christmas, both went down with very, very rarely ill. That's why we remember it. We both went down with this illness. And now, as I read the symptoms of this coronavirus strain, we had word for word, point by point, every single symptom. And that means one of two things. It means either this coronavirus strain was going around in Britain then, before it had even emerged out of China, or, far more likely, we got something else with exactly the same symptoms. So I would hold back on believing the figures. And I would also...
those figures I mentioned, are you unsure about those?
I question any figures coming out of mainstream authority. I've been investigating the mainstream everything for 30 years. And, you know, most of the time, if they ever told the truth, they would genetically implode from the shock. So I question everything. And if it stands up, it stands up. But I don't just take it because somebody in a suit has told me to believe it. For instance, you know, in 2017, 2018, 45 million people got the flu in America, according to Centers for Disease Control and Prevention figures. 61,000 died. Where was the hysteria then? 61,000 people dying.
Well, they say that this is more dangerous and more contagious and what's potentially going to kill more people. Because otherwise, that's a good question, David. Everyone's like, well, how come people aren't worried about this when the flu from 18 killed 50,000? This has only killed 8,000.
The point is, though, this is the point, that according to officialdom, 80% of people who get the coronavirus, diagnose the coronavirus, have not necessarily all got it, have very mild symptoms. The vast majority of the rest have what they call moderate symptoms, and that leaves some with compromised and weakened immune systems who get the serious end of it. And they get the serious end of the flu as well, and other viruses.
And these people are clogging up the Italian health system right now. Do you believe that's true?
The point is that what we surely should be doing is focusing on those people and doing what is necessary to protect them and their immune systems from the consequences. But to have the vast majority of the population who at most will have mild symptoms, some even no symptoms. I mean, I remember this story. One of the first Scottish people to get the virus was interviewed on a BBC local radio station. And he said, well, I had a bit of a mild fever. Well, what's that? That's the immune system using heat to kill the predator. Just perfectly immune system response. So anyway, he says, and so I got checked out, and they said I got coronavirus. And they said, you've got to go to hospital. He said, but I felt all right. I had a few aches and stuff, but I feel all right. He said, so I'll go to hospital. He said, but by the time I get to hospital, he said, the symptoms are gone. And he's gone down as a statistic, coronavirus in the numbers. So when you've got people who are getting that even if they do get it on a vast scale in terms of percentage who have that response, you get an even greater number who don't get it. And for that, you destroy, because that's what's happening before our eyes, Brian, you destroy the world economic system. Now, let's go back to how I started. One of the things I've been pointing out as a problem reaction solution that was coming to transform human society, including, by the way, one of the things I said was coming in my earlier books was a pandemic because of all the boxes it ticks. But what I have been saying for the best part of 30 years is they are planning an enormous economic crash. And I've been saying it even more since 2008, because 2008 seemed to be a nightmare. The point I'm making is what they want is something that would make 2008 look like, a Sunday school tea party. And so this coronavirus hysteria gives the excuse to do what they're doing, and the outcome and the consequences of what they're doing is to dismantle the world economic system. Now, another thing I've been saying, this Hunger Games society, I've been saying this for a long time, is designed to have no small business, no even medium-sized business, globally, just gigantic corporations that control and produce everything. Amazon is a classic example of what I'm talking about. What this coronavirus hysteria is creating is a situation unfolding by the hour worldwide that is destroying small business, family business, even medium-sized business, some even relatively big businesses too. It's destroying them. The big legacy of what is happening now will not be to do with health long term. It will be economic.
I agree with
you. It's going to be catastrophic. Now, here's the point. What happens to those people whose businesses collapse? What happens to all those people who were working for those businesses, for bars, for hotels, for all these businesses that have been targeted, don't go there, shut down. What happens to them? They fall into the bottom of the Hunger Games society. And what we're seeing now, every day, is this Hunger Games society coming closer and closer and closer because of what's being done in the name of protecting the people. I got news for you. You go deep enough into this system, they don't give a shit about the people. We are being asked to believe now that this system cares about old people. We must protect the old people. We must destroy the world economy to protect the old people. Oh, these would be the old people, would they, that have paid in their entire life through taxation and other means, and at the end, in their final years, they get handed a pittance of a pension, which gives them the choice between being warm or being hungry. And what does that do? When people are going without essential things, because the system doesn't care, and they're having to buy shite food, because that's all they can afford. They can't have nutrients to boost their immune systems because they can't afford them, and the mainstream everything's not telling them they need them anyway. And at the same time, they're breathing in shit air, drinking toxic water and other drinks, being deluged with sugar, which has a phenomenally destructive impact on the immune system. All this is going on. We're living in an electromagnetic, technologically generated soup of radiation toxicity. And this system has allowed that to happen, has allowed corporations to do that. And now, having done all that, that's devastated the lives and the immune systems of old people, we are being asked to believe that the system cares about the health of the elderly. It doesn't give a shit. And I'm not talking about the nurses. I'm not talking about the doctors. I'm talking about that at the core which is driving this. And the idea that all these things are being done to protect the elderly, they don't give a shit about the elderly. The elderly are an excuse to impose the very society that I'm talking about. Now, if you look at when these things happen and great Orwellian, draconian things are put in place, oh, we've got to do this because of the problem. Well, the problem eventually passes. This virus will eventually flatten out. But what you see every time, 9/11's a classic, they'll roll back some of it, but not nearly roll back to where it was before. The whole thing's moved on, closer to the Hunger Games society. Another thing you're going to see, oh, and by the way, I mentioned that a great goal of this, and I've been saying this, when did I first write this? About 1993. They want a cashless society, a digital cashless society, one world currency, which has phenomenal implications for what they've brought as a result of this coronavirus.
Okay. I want to talk about that technology because it's a very good point. But now Italy right now, we're looking at Italy, and from what we can see and hear, the hospitals are chock full of people that are dying. There's not enough respirators, etc. I mean, surely we must do something about this, David. I know what you're saying is that these things will pass and we're crushing our global economy, which actually has bigger implications than the health. I agree with you. This will ruin people's lives.
Well, not only that, it will cause massive amounts of ill health and death.
I agree with that too. I agree with that. It's just pushing it down further. But what about these people that are dying and clogging up hospitals, and the fact that could happen with the NHS? That is a reality.
Well, I've thought all along, and it seems to be the case, that the strain that is prevalent in Italy is something of a stronger nature than what's generally circulating, and also in Iran. That's something else. Just as an aside, we have a country targeted by America, targeted by Israel, Iran, and as this virus came out of China, of all the countries in all the world, Iran got its smack worse than anyone before it started to appear in Italy.
It was a little odd.
And members...
Could have been a coincidence.
Well, I mean, after 30 years, Brian, coincidences are something I have to be very, very well persuaded, because coincidences don't turn out to be so. They turn out to be made to happen. Anyway, so not only did Iran have this, what again seems a stronger strain of it, but it was killing the people within the regime at a very early stage. And that's a coincidence. How many coincidences do you want? And then you have another one, you see. I mentioned that one of the problem reaction solutions that I've said in the books over the years that they were going to use to justify this Hunger Games society was a pandemic. You look at the movie Contagion. I think it was 2011.
I watched it. Last week.
It's basically coming out of China and stuff like that.
Yeah, Steven Soderbergh. It's got Jude Law in there. And
yeah,
Gwyneth Paltrow. It's very interesting, very well made.
Yeah, but I've talked to you in previous chats about something called preemptive programming, where they preempt something to put it into the subconscious mind, even the conscious mind, through Hollywood, and then suddenly it kind of happens for real. But I was sent a document from 2010 that was published by the Rockefeller Foundation. The Rockefeller Foundation obviously is a front for the Rockefeller family, which is fundamentally involved in this global cult. In fact, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers were the creators of the World Health Organization, which is there to control health policy and direct the perception of health in all its forms from a central point.
You don't trust the WHO at all?
Well, it's currently headed by a guy called Tedros from Ethiopia, who was a Politburo member in a Marxist government that's been running Ethiopia for a long time. He was health minister and was exposed 3 times for covering up cholera epidemics.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere.
Is a front for the Rockefeller family, which is fundamentally involved in this global cult. In fact, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers were the creators of the World Health Organization, which is there to control health policy and direct the perception of health in all its forms from a central point.
You don't trust the WHO at all?
Well, it's currently headed by a guy called Tedros from Ethiopia, who was a Politburo member in a Marxist government that's been running Ethiopia for a long time. He was health minister and was exposed 3 times for covering up cholera epidemics in Ethiopia. And now he's head of the World Health Organization, telling us about the coronavirus. You will understand if I don't agree or even believe a word that comes out of his mouth. See, these organizations are not there to serve the public. They're there to serve this agenda. So who came out and said, "Oh no, don't touch cash. You pass on the virus. Just use Tedros." Same guy. He's the one that praised China for a wonderful job they did with the coronavirus and what have you. Now, this Rockefeller Foundation document was about a scenario involving a flu pandemic. And it described what would happen, that China would use authoritarian, draconian methods to meet the challenge. And then the West wouldn't basically start like that, but then would become the same. And this whole global lockdown was described in this document. And then we moved to 6 weeks before the virus came to light in China. And we had something called Event 201. This was a simulation of a coronavirus pandemic, which involved the World Economic Forum, which has its meeting every year in Davos. This is the 1%, 1%. And involved the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill Gates, the guy that wants to vaccinate the frickin' world, and, by the way, is funding the electronic tracking of people so that the authorities know if they've been vaccinated or not through an organization he funds called Gavi. And they ran this simulation called Event 201, in which they inserted, scenario or simulated news reports. And if you watch them, you can see it on the internet. It's just like the news reports we're seeing in the media. And they were discussing, okay, what can we do? And there was a whole area of this simulation where they're discussing how they control information. And they're saying, how do we deal with the anti-vaxxers? How do we make sure that the official narrative of the pandemic is the one that's dominating the internet and all these lines of communication, and not what they call conspiracy theories, putting another point of view. And all these things that they talked about in this scenario have